Hooray! Odeya, welcome to Studio Class. This is a masterclass episode, and I cannot tell you how excited I am that you are here. It's been a long time dream of mine to be able to talk to you and just share about our musical lives together. And so, even though we are not in person physically, I feel like this is really special. So, welcome, and I hope that you'll just kick us off by telling us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you so much, Megan. Thanks for having me. A bit about myself. Well, I am a performer, even though these days yeah. And I guess these days identify even more as a teacher in the
Mhm.
last year and a half. And I lead vocal sound baths, sound healing. So kind of those worlds of being a teacher and being a performer, being an artist,
Mhm.
and then also being a sound healing practitioner.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's kind of that trio of practices. That's I
I
guess.
love that. If there's anyone who might be listening that is unfamiliar with sound healing or sound baths, would you just give them a little intro into that side of your life?
Yeah, sound baths, it came from I taught yoga for a very long time, and in parallel, I was teaching yoga, and at that time I was studying jazz and contemporary music at the New School, and kind of getting more and more into free jazz and experimental music, and discovering that abstract expression, and then the yoga at the same time, and I felt that they were very separate worlds,
Mm.
and I was really curious about what it would be like for people to experience abstract art, experimental music, things that they might feel like they don't connect with. And if they experience them with their eyes closed, laying down,
Mhm. Mhm.
kind of in a frontal position, and looking at me or anything that they see that they can't immediately make sense of, maybe. And
Mm.
if they're experiencing it with their eyes closed and in a state of calm and just taking something in that way, if they would appreciate in a different way, and not only appreciate but experience it and enjoy it and be moved by it in a different kind of way. So that's kind of how I came into it as an artist.
Mhm.
I didn't start from a sound healing place. I started as a yoga teacher. I practiced yoga and I loved yoga and I loved teaching yoga, and but I thought of those worlds very separate. And then when I brought in kind of my abstract art, which is very expressive, very dynamic, the tones, just the movement of sound, which was my practice as an artist, when I brought that into this arena of meditation, it strengthened both of those sides, the
100%.
my performance practice, and confirming that it is a healing
Mhm.
practice, and it's sound is movement, and it's energy, and it's moving through us, and it's shifting us, and it's changing us, and it's transforming us, even in the immediate. I believe that it could have instant transformation, for someone, where it really hits them and it just opens something inside of them. And yeah, so that's kind of how I brought my work into this sound healing. But since then, I've allowed myself to kind of go deeper and deeper into sound healing itself, and consider myself a sound healer, working with the crystal bowls and the Himalayan
Mhm.
bowls, the gongs and the chimes, and really being in tune with that flow and guiding people in that space um, of movement, of energy,
Mhm.
in meditation. So yeah, I feel very much rooted in that world now, but I also have brought that very much into my world as a performer, vocalist,
Yeah.
composer. And I feel like no matter what I'm doing, I feel like I am in a state of meditation, and I'm sending
Yeah.
out that vibration, energy, love, just movement. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. It's one of the things that I love so much about your work and overall is just the integration of all of that, and it's very present even watching you in a video. So it's so that's such a beautiful part of what you do. I was wondering if if you ever had a moment where those felt like they were farther away, or did you always feel like the sound and movement and energy were integral to your sound making as an artist?
Um, yeah, I think originally when I began to, I mean, my path really started with theater. When I was
Hmm.
a child, I was very passionate about theater and being an actress, and that was my dream originally. And then I studied theater pretty seriously, and I realized that I just kind of wanted to be myself,
Hmm. Yeah.
but embody these different things, but not embody them as like a character that someone else wrote that I become.
Hmm.
I still very much respect theater, but I really wanted it to be parts of myself that I embodied and channeled and became.
Hmm.
So that kind of shifted me into music and vocalizing. And I mean, I always sang, but
Yeah.
it kind of, my singing became more of an embodying of expression, expressing something.
Yeah.
And um and when I moved to California, actually, that's when it really, the movement, I had never even heard of performance art dance or
Yeah.
kind of somatic practices. I had never heard of it before I moved to
Yeah.
California. When studying jazz or living in New York, it just wasn't on my radar. So when I moved out here and I got to know a community of performance artists and movers, performance art, dance,
Hmm.
and somatic practices, and just being a part of that, that community and being part of pieces and being guided in these ways where, not in composition, someone is telling, it's written out, like this is what,
Yeah.
this is the dynamics, this is the expression, everything's there, these are the notes. And suddenly in that world, it was, guided through imagery, guided through all these other things. And I thought, wow, what a different process.
Yeah.
And this is still the work of the composer, of the choreographer,
Right.
of the
Right.
artist. Even though they didn't tell me exactly what to do, they guided me through their words and through their images and through creating space for me and through creating interactions for me, to bring their work to life. So I've just been extremely inspired by that process for
Incredible.
over a decade now, since I've been here, and brought that into my world. When I first moved to California, I went to Cal Arts. That first year, I studied MFA in composition. And the first year, I actually really moved away from the voice. I didn't do any voice work. I thought, I
Mm.
want to be a composer. I want to be in my head. I want to create these worlds,
Yeah.
deeper into this practice of world creating, sound creating, all
Yeah.
that, and really put my voice aside. And then being a part of this community here in LA with movers, dancers, and I thought, wow, this is just so much stronger than me. This is yeah. So it came back in full force,
Yeah.
and I felt with like completely changed.
Hmm.
Actually, the performance I do today, which I call a solo voice,
Hmm.
which is always changing. It's never the
Yeah.
same performance. The first a solo voice was in grad school. It was my thesis performance basically.
Right. Right.
And it had compositional elements, and it had the voice, and it had a lot of movement. And in terms of it really began with not wanting to perform in front of a microphone or
Hmm.
use amplified sound, really wanting to use the space. um, and if I'm using the space, and I gotta use a lot of energy to send
Yeah.
my sound out. It's gotta be big, it's gotta move, it's gotta shift. And it just became balls of sound. And I'm just
Yeah.
touching the sound, moving the sound, throwing the sound, dropping the sound, lifting. Like it's like that, I want the sound to bounce off of walls and do all these wild things so it can come back and I can hear it differently and I can play with the reverb. It was just
Yeah.
literally wanting to move sound in the space, and then my body just had to do that, physicalize that.
Yeah, yeah.
So physicalizing sound, and to literally help my muscles organize themselves in a way where I could project in that kind of way. So it kind of began like that, and then it's just become, so much more, and just looking deeper into ourselves and everything that the body holds and the body stores, and unraveling those things and the habits and the history we have in our body and the mind, just everything that came with the body mind connection. Yeah.
The whole
I don't
process.
know.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I went there.
I was like, this is going to be one of those conversations where I just want to go in so many places, because I'm like, I want to talk about this, and I also want to talk about this. And but one of the things that you said just now that really struck me, and one of the things that I think about with your work, is because you were talking about the sound in the space, and I loved the connection between, when I think of your work, I also think of very embodied music making, sound making, and the mind-body connection, both as a music maker but as a listener, the mind-body connection as being a listener, as well as, and I think it's connected to how the sound works in a space being unamplified, I think is really interesting, and our physical connection to that, and being able to send the sound in different ways or receive the sound in certain ways when you're being very present and using the room, or really thinking about your body being a part of it. I was wondering if you would talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really been everything for me, like resonance, the space, in terms of just how beautiful something sounds when it's reading, just that pleasure of feeling like you're as big as a huge cathedral, or you can touch a canyon. You feel so vast and so huge when you can really understand that sound is bouncing off of something. It's physical. It's coming out of us. It's invisible. We can't see it, but it's physical, and it's touching. It can touch something really far away, or it can touch something right next to you, and it's touching yourself. And it's incredible to make peace, I think, with being comfortable being as huge as sound. I think that's a really big thing to navigate. Like, how do I feel? How comfortable do I feel being this big? And then once I can be this big, who am I in that vastness, and how big I am? I must consider everything in my way. I must be compassionate. I must be loving and caring and safe. And it brings up all of those things when I realize that everything I hear is me projecting myself in this space, and everything is in the umbrella of my sound, and then back to me. And it just, that holding, that like really holding space like that has been a game changer with everything that I do, whatever I'm singing, whatever abstract sound I'm making, or if I'm singing a song. It's kind of you and me together, whether you're a tree or a human. We're in this just wide just landscape of sound. And it changes the relationship with the audience, and how I'm interacting with them, and how I know that they're experiencing sound differently, whether I come up close to them or whether I move far away, or whether it's sharp or fast or slow or soft. All those dynamics, all those expressions, just, it takes on this just incredible, just, giving and taking and sharing and receiving, and this back and forth that we're in, and it becomes alive in even more than the fact that we are alive. Therefore I am alive. No, I'm alive in what is this world around me of just sound, that's touching me, that's holding me, that's moving me literally, physically, but moving me emotionally, my heart, my soul. It makes me want to cry, it makes me want to laugh, it makes me scared, all of that, like, it's really incredible. Like, it's just sound and the physicality of sound and touch and vibration. And yeah, when we come from that starting point, no matter what you're singing, if you're singing an aria, if you're singing Joni Mitchell, if you're singing, you know, bird sounds, whatever you're doing, if we start from that point of I am vibration, we are vibration, we're sharing, we're giving, we're receiving, we're together. It's not just about me because I'm sounding, it's about us, that community and that being in it together. It just changes everything that
Changes
comes
everything.
even if you're speaking to a gas station, whatever it is, when we open our mouth, it's like, oh, it's not just, I'm sharing.
Yeah. I love that. Odeya, one of the questions that I always ask Masterclass guests kind of at the beginning is, what is an intention that you're keeping for yourself right now?
An intention that I keep for myself. Let me think. Yeah, I looked at that question. I was like, there's so many. I don't know. An intention. Maybe, would you like me to answer that more as a teacher or as an artist, or?
Well, you could do both too if you feel called to kind of speak about both facets of that.
I think something that's really important to me. I mean, when I think of intention, I think of a value in my work, and I think I really hope to. My intention is to help people and myself farther along the process, is to help feel really more comfortable. When I reduce it down, it comes down to feeling good and not being afraid. Feeling comfortable in your own skin, no matter what your sound is, because so many people want to sound like something that they think is an ideal voice or an ideal singer, and that stops them from feeling like their voice is worthy of it, and just feeling like their voice is singular, incredible, whatever sound they have. Like, don't be afraid to use it and love it, not just use it and think, okay, I just use it, there it is. No, I found it and I love my voice. And to move through the fear that we have. So many people have so much fear around opening their mouths to speak, or even more to sound. And when we do use the voice in a powerful way or in an uninhibited way, and just, I mean, not in a way where we hurt others, not caring about others,
right,
but like, here I am in my full, here's my expression, here's my sound, here's my color, and whatever comes through, facing it and moving through it and not being afraid. So I think really my intention is to be a doula for people to feel comfortable in their voice and in their body, in their skin, and face those fears and move through them and be empowered, to realize that we have the power to change how we feel.
Well, I was wondering, because this is a thought that came to me when we were talking about experiencing the vastness, especially about like opening ourselves up to that. If you were kind of in community with someone who felt blocked about experiencing that for themselves, kind of what direction would you encourage them to go? Or do you have anything that you would recommend trying, strategies or just kind of experiences, something like that might help them move through that block to being more, or at least being okay with being uncomfortable through that first steps, and then developing more comfort with that vastness.
Yeah. I mean, so much. There's so much of the work, it comes in from different avenues to speak
Mm-hmm.
to speak to that essentially confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And but I really find that just naming it and asking that question, some people, you might never even think of it that way. You never
Mm.
think of it never occurred to you to think of, oh, is sound, it's filling up the room, it's making me really big. How do I feel about that? How do I feel about, um, in a way, invading someone's space?
Yeah.
I'm touching them and I just took up all this room with my voice and they're in it. How do I feel about touching other people? How do I feel about, yeah, and entering a room and being really big? So I think just by proposing those questions to people, like in workshops when I work with people, that's already an eye opener. And they say, oh, I never thought about that. And
Mhm.
just by thinking of it and working through it and maybe naming what they might fear about that,
Yeah.
start begins to dissipate,
Hmm.
and just understand ourselves more. But
Yeah.
yeah, many of us just never thought of asking that question
Yeah.
of, how do I feel being vast? How do I feel
Mhm.
taking up space? How do I feel touching other people?
Well,
Um,
and I bet you would agree with me that many of us that are kind of trained in the classical tradition are very often convinced about fitting someone else's checklist or fitting into a box of sorts, and and then confronting that question for themselves about what it feels like to be vast, to be themselves, to be their singular voice, and also kind of enveloping other people in that can feel a little daunting at first. They're because they're so used to saying like, just I'm this canvas, like you tell me, I'll be what you want. And then starting to realize your own agency with your sound making can feel a little unsure at first.
yeah, yeah. And I think we all have to realize that even I mean, we all have the power to affect ourselves and other people, and in that sense, I think we're all healers.
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
that's just something for me personally in my path that I've had to think about more and more, just because of the sound baths and everything I had mentioned, and people saying things to me that I was like, oh, I don't know. People said, oh, we feel like you're an oracle or a channel or a shaman, and I'm thinking, I'm just a musician. I don't know. I really didn't come into this with a starting point. I didn't take like
Yeah.
a course. I didn't go on like a you know, journey to become this thing. I mean, I've been on lots of journeys with this,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's just is.
Hmm.
And I think what that is being present. It's being present. It's
Hmm.
just being there, aware, connected. I'm here. I'm aware of my body. I'm aware of what's happening around me. And that comes into play with everything that we do, whether we're speaking or whatever happens. And I think claiming that power for
Hmm.
us, for then, and feeling that each one of us has that power. I don't have to go on like a vision quest to be that person,
Yeah.
and feel like I can be that person in different ways for my friend, for a community, on various scales. But then we take that agency. We say, yes, I can be that person. No one has to like, ordain me to be that person.
Hmm.
Like I can feel connected. I can listen. I can, feel you. I can feel us together, and I can give. I can share. I can be to, and the practice is being present and feeling like, yes, I can be that person. I am that person. I can share, and I can offer, and I can help, and I can, I know,
Hmm.
just the I know, as there's a lot
Hmm.
of I don't know. I say it all the time too, it's in those in between moments. But overall, I
Yeah.
feel I practice in I know.
Mm.
Yes. And
Hmm.
it's not about an absolute truth. It's about feeling like it's that connection. It's
Yeah.
I when I guide my sound baths, and there's so much doubt that can come in, and like,
Hmm.
what am I doing? What do I think I'm doing? Like, I'm a healer. Who am what? Who am I?
Yeah.
And who do I think I am? And that voice can get so loud. Like,
Mm.
have the, I can't do this. Someone else needs to tell me what to do. And I'm good at that role. And yeah, maybe for some of us, that's where we feel comfortable and that's where we want to be. But no, I think that we all should feel that we do know, and
Mhm.
that's not, a self-centered, not in a self-centered place, not in a place where we don't care about other people, in a place where we really do care, for just for our well-being, for all of our well-beings,
Yeah.
because we're practicing an art form, and
Mhm.
we're not. This isn't. This is about, this is about other people sharing in an experience with us, and seeing and feeling something and seeing something in a different way, and being inspired by something. I mean, that's why we're doing what we do. That's why we're essential workers. We're
Yes,
here.
yes.
We have an important role
We have
to
a very important
play
role.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like, pass that on. Like, hey, you know, and with my work, I really hope for people to experience what I experience through me. I
Mhm.
want them to go through something in their own bodies, as they not just watch me and be like, "Oh, that was great. She's talented," you know.
Yeah.
And with my energy and everything that I do, I try to break that wall of they're
Yeah.
watching me, and they're here and I'm here. Like, no, we're in this, even though you might be sitting in your chair and I'm
Yep.
on a stage.
Yeah.
And then kind of like almost by passing this baton on to them, like, hey, now it's your turn to go out there into the world, and
Right.
yeah, share yourself.
Right. I love that. Well, and I think we very much vibe on that. I think in that experience, in the performance experience, from my perspective, I think I always invite audiences or listeners to realize how much a part of it they are, and I invite them like into our shared space before performance. And because we have these co-roles in what happens there. And then I think similarly, or something that I vibe with what you said was, I often think of, I making that sound in that space hopefully encourages them as they go on to do the thing that they do, in that, with that same energy and that same sharing and that same kind of, we'll just keep coming back to expansiveness and just opening up, because we all have these gifts and we all bring them together, and it's in that sharing of it that becomes really special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I was wondering, Odeya, one of the things that I talk about kind of in Sybaritic Singer land and writing about things and on this podcast
Mhm.
is helping musicians and think about musicians, composers, artists, like think about kind of work through logistical skills as well as kind of their overall art making skills. And I was wondering if you had a kind of technical skill. This could be like technique, or it could be just something that's a little bit more like logistical of a skill that you really love to teach.
Mhm. Um, yes, I was thinking about that, and I mean, I love teaching in general. I
Yeah.
should just say, I feel so blessed to be able to teach. Um, and but what I really love teaching is actually dynamics.
Ooh,
because
yes.
um, because so many people think that they can't do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they feel it might feel like a really daunting, like, how do I give a lot and then give a little? How do I manage? I mean, it's a lot of breath management, right? And core
Mhm.
management physical. It's the diaphragm working in these different ways, and the breath
Yeah.
work. So yes, I can talk about that, and I do talk about that more technically with students. But what I love doing is this call and response,
Mm-hmm.
where I am very expressive. I have these like very expressive sounds or things that we know, like woohoo, like
Yes.
yes, or like oh my god, oh, I look so sad, or like
Yeah.
what? Oh my
Yeah.
god, oh, oh. And just kind of going through these like what? Oh no, no,
Yeah.
these different sounds, and then having students repeat that back, and they're
Yeah.
just smiling like so happy and just surprised that they were
Yeah.
able to like get these really high pitches and high notes and loud notes, and then go deep and low and get all these different sounds. So
Yeah.
that dynamic range of expression, and also pitch wise and tone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But through that call and response, which I always do with students, it's amazing. It just opens it all up,
Mm-hmm.
through that.
Well, and I love that in that you're also reminding them that they make all of these sounds just
Yeah.
very naturally. Like your voice wants to do this. So when we think about perhaps singing, quote unquote, like scare quotes around it, there are all these sounds that you've made already in your life. And so your voice already knows. And you just are practicing accessing them all the time, or accessing them in a more conscious way, so that you can do them exactly when you mean to.
Yes. It's just I always bring up like being on a roller coaster,
Yeah.
like like no one's stopping before they yell going down really fast. Like, okay, how do I sound that pitch? But afterwards, if you told someone, oh, can you sing that high note? They'd think I could never hit that pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, no,
So
you just did. Yeah.
so it's just so important. I mean, voice work, we can't see or touch this instrument. It is
Mhm.
not, we must be in our imagination and our visualization and our play and our embodiment of things to figure out how to produce that sound, and the body just
Yeah.
knows. And then you look, and then you reflect on that. Oh, what happened there? What did that feel? How can I
Mhm.
reproduce that? So yeah, it's always really incredible to see people
Yeah.
that think, oh, I could never do that, and then oh, there it is, there it is.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Yeah.
excited.
I love that. I love that you said dynamics, because that's not one that always comes up. And so, but it's such an integral part of what we do, and part of like what makes it so magical. And so I wish that you just feel like you can access that all the time. So I love that you said that. I'm wondering when we kind of switch gears, a technical thing, but then also one of the things that I talk about is kind of chunking things down into more manageable steps for things. Because sometimes being in our creative lives, things can feel overwhelming because you have a vision of what you want something to look like. And the middle ground can seem kind of murky. And one of the reasons, and you've helped in this before because you've been a 29 Days to Diva mentor in the past, and I loved your responses so much for that. So shout out. So anybody go back and search 29 Days to Diva and Odeya's name, and you'll be able to read some of those. But when we talk about micro actions here, I always think about chunking something down that's really, really manageable, that you can kind of do consistently. And the example that I always give is not necessarily like write the grant, quote unquote. It's because that's like full of so many parts, but it's like finish the intro, or it's like, create the budget, if you were doing that from a grant perspective. But I was wondering if you were thinking through your life in music and all of the creative work that you do, if you could identify a micro action that you feel was really empowering or impactful in your journey so far.
Mhm. Well, I think I think it's really the adding on of
Mhm.
every little thing that I do, every performance, every and not, not doesn't have to not big performances, like every performing for one person, performing in a small setting, performing here,
Yeah.
doing this, just the traveling, going and spreading it in these different places, and just one thing after the next, and gaining that experience. I feel like some people might think that, okay, how is that worth it? Like, is this thing worth it? Is this like, how much is this thing paying? How much,
Mhm.
all those things. And then, oh, it's not worth it. But I mean, now I am more selective, also being a mother to two, but
Yeah.
not not thinking as much about how, how much is this paying me, but more about, is this experience a worthwhile experience? And I'm gonna put myself in, I'm gonna have that experience and add that to my basket of experiences as an artist. And I think just those little things that add up.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that's something to mention, because I know that, over the years, people have had friends even said, "Oh, you do all these things," and I think, well, you can do that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can just don't stop yourself from all the little things that you might think. You're maybe thinking, is this really what I should do? Maybe I should put my energy into something that's more productive here. But all those experiences and meeting people and talking to someone and facing someone and sharing your work in these little settings just add up to a whole body of experience and work.
Yeah.
And it's paid off for me, because I feel like, yeah, I feel like I've been to many places and done many things, um, and yes, of course, we do need support at times to get to these places. But sometimes, I mean, I've broken even, or I've found other little things within that one thing to add to make it all work. Like, how
Right.
do we make it all work? So the little things that add up, even in that
Yeah.
one thing, like traveling somewhere.
I
Um,
think that's such an important thing to note in how we all make decisions about the kinds of things that we take on, that we all bring those threads together or those puzzle pieces, whatever metaphor you want to use. If
mhm,
there's something worthwhile, that we all just kind of figure out how to make those work for our own situations.
mhm.
And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that for maybe anyone who feels like they have to like make their whole living as an artist, otherwise it's not valid or something like that.
Mhm. Well, I think that, for me, I just thought, okay, how else can I support? I really wanted to perform. Now things are different, but
Yeah.
when I started, I thought, I really want to get out there. I want to go here. I want to do this. How do I make it happen?
Mhm.
And, experimental music, there isn't that much, much money in it. And so I thought, okay, I can teach. I love teaching. And how can I organize these workshops? And how can I reach out? I teach yoga. Can I reach out to yoga studios? Can I reach out to this? How can I make this happen? How can I create a workshop that I can
Yeah.
offer? And then the sound baths, and I would reach out to other students. So it was this, the different things that I figured out, the different things I can offer that aligned with my mission and my value as an artist and what I wanted to put out there into the world. So
Yeah.
not a compromise at all,
Mhm.
but I would say to really find what that is, like, who are you as an artist? I mean, of course, you have to be that type of artist
Mhm.
to do that, right? If you're just someone that's looking for a role in different places, that's a different path maybe. But if you feel like, okay, I'm a whole artist, and I have these different outlets and different things that I can do, and this is my message, and how can I yeah, how can I convey that message in different ways? and
Yeah.
and thinking of what is something that has more of a monetary value, like, okay, I'm teaching, someone would pay for that, and so then I can offer this thing with less payment, so
Right.
just that juggle of um how can I navigate the things that I really want to do.
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes sense. I know that
It definitely
it
does.
can
Yeah.
be doesn't, no, when I went to grad school at Cal Arts and coming from New York, and I had this passion. I thought, okay, I'm really into composition. I was really into free improv and experimental art. And I had a teacher at the New School too, even before coming here, Jerry Hemingway, who's incredible. And he was a drummer. He played with Anthony Braxton for many years. Like, Jerry, I'm really into this like extended technique free improv. What do I do with it? I kept trying to have a teacher tell me what that path was to make this thing work. And I realized no one can tell you, like, that's the truth. And even at grad school, I'm like, I'm in grad school. I've got my mentor. Like, tell me, what do I do?
What is the path?
What's the path? Like, is there an order of operations?
Yeah.
And there really is not one way, There are many different ways, and we have to find our way. And I feel like you have to think of what your mission is, what your desires are for connection, and what you want to put out there into the world, and figure out how to organize that in the way where, okay, here's my product, here's this thing. And for me, I've been lucky that all those things have just come together in this way. And now I perform voice baths in a museum, and I'll, do a workshop and then arts, that they've all come together, and as like an entity. So
I had someone recently ask me, they were saying that they also have a very interdisciplinary way of being themselves in the world, and they were worried that they had to kind of split each one of those things into its own like message, its own. And I said, I don't think so. If you feel like it's very separate from this one, and that it would be confusing for people to be able to understand you in all of that, then sure, you can split that off for marketing reasons. That's fine. But I was like, but I think you can always think of yourself like in your umbrella, your holistic self. And each one of these expressions is part of what you do. I think you're such a great example of that, where you identified all of these ways that you want to, offer your creative work in the world. And they're all part of your umbrella.
Yeah. And yes.
Yeah.
I want to say that I'm not trying to say that this is an easy path at all, and then like, oh, just find what you're, no, not at all. It's definitely not an easy one to figure out who you are as an artist, and what your unique message is, or your unique way of transmitting that message that already exists. That takes work, and a desire to find that. But it's infectious when you are your authentic self, and it's people feel that, see that, and they're inspired, and like, oh yes, like I see that in this person.
Yeah.
And they thank you for that, and they thank you for giving them the empowering them to be that themselves. So yeah.
That's so true.
Become the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah, like, there you go.
It really is that. It's like you become, and as a parent, I know that very well, because they say that your children might not listen to you, but they're watching you.
Watching you.
So you have to be that person as an example of what you want them to be, and they feel that, they sense that, and they become that, even if they're not listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. Well, and definitely, and I'm going to take that, as being the artist, just putting yourself, if you have the vision for it, just putting yourself being that you say you are. And, so it's not just about writing it down or whatever, it's about just being that and walking that. I think I was wondering if you've had a student that came to you and said, I'm just feeling a little stuck in being able to articulate my message in the world. How would you guide them?
That's a big question. I can, in many ways, I would ask them what that message is. I mean, often, um, I think that we have to, well, I would tell them to meditate. That's what I would tell
Yeah,
them to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
It seems like, oh, well, that's an easy way, but no, I've had I've this last year and a half actually, I've had a deeper meditation practice, and it's incredible. We just really need to sit with ourselves, and
Hmm.
I don't know what that message is. Journal, write, sit with yourself. Yeah, sit,
Hmm.
write, journal, listen, and and find what that is. No one can tell you, no one can
Hmm.
show you. And and I've been doing hour-long meditations, not on the
Wow.
daily, but
Yeah.
really taking that time, not necessarily of Vipassana, that's awesome too, but even if you just take a prolonged period of time, like an hour out of your day for a week, uh,
Hmm.
and really sitting and letting those things come in. All they just bounce off the, hear that voice and you're like, no, hear that voice, and you're fighting it, and you sit until it comes. You're like,
Hmm.
what is that? I mean, not the answer, but
Yeah.
something, a vision.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you start breaking that down. Like, what
Yeah.
is that? What do I feel? What do I see? And then you sit again and just breaking it down to just having your, and also you, by sitting in meditation, you're going through really powerful experiences with yourself, and then you
Yeah.
can speak to those experiences, and
Yeah.
you've met yourself in a different
You've
way.
met yourself in
Your
a different way. Yes.
your mind in a different way. It's so yeah, I mean, some people take plant medicine, and that's
Yeah.
they meet,
Yep.
mother in various ways, and that's wonderful. Go for
Yeah.
it. But but in meditation, when we just sit quietly with ourselves, we still meet that source,
Hmm.
and if we listen and if we're open. So I think that I would suggest that it's a
Yeah.
journey. It is
It
a journey
definitely is.
to find what
Yeah.
that message is, and but if we want to be on it, then I think I always say with this work that I do with people, I'm not teaching them how to sing, Rossini. I'm
Yeah.
teaching them how to just that raw material, how
Yep.
to access that. Like, okay, I can even see my raw material, and from here I can build on that, and I can sound like whatever. I can sing like Janis Joplin, or I can
Yeah.
sound like an opera singer, or
Yeah.
Chinese classical,
Yeah.
traditional,
Yes.
whatever I want it to be. But I need to I need to meet the raw material of myself, and then, um, so yeah, I think um, sitting with oneself,
That's
and
incredible.
what I was going to say is that you must desire that path, and when you desire that path, it can really be just, it's like turning a corner, like, oh,
Mhm.
it's like a paradigm shift. It's just,
Yep.
oh wow, I never turned my head to
Yeah.
I never saw that, and it's
I
been right
know.
here.
Yeah.
The other day I was actually in a lift for the first time in a very long
Yeah.
time, and I was coming home, and I was in the back seat of a car driving up the street that I live on,
Yeah.
and I thought, oh my God, I've never looked at these houses from this perspective, and I never noticed these houses. I've been living here for 10 years, so kind of like that, where
Yes.
wow, it's some things are right there, but we might have been driving down the same road for 10 years,
Yeah.
and never turned our head to a certain angle to notice
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I think that's so powerful. Definitely. Well, and another thing that I think is incredibly powerful is the power of curiosity. I think it's just a superpower. And so our studio class listeners know that I love to ask this question, which is, what is something that you are deeply curious about at the moment?
Well, something I've been experiencing for the last more since the pandemic began, and I've been doing a lot of virtual teaching, and in my teaching, been doing these group online lessons where I it's a monologue
Yeah.
basically. So everyone has their camera and their audio off, and so I essentially practice the whole lesson with
Yeah.
everyone. I'm
Yeah.
introducing it, talk about it, and then I set a timer for sometimes 10 minutes, and I'm practicing. So it's been more pronounced in the last year and a half or so, but I've been having a lot of flashbacks from very random moments in my life.
Yeah.
Not my wedding day
Yeah.
and these like big moments, but just, a moment I turned a corner on a street, a moment I walked into a grocery store in a somewhere, not insignificant moments in my life. Um, and I found it extremely fascinating.
Mm.
Just, wow, how is this memory? Where is this coming from? What is that? And it's been incredible. It's been an incredible experience. And I've been, at first I just thought, no, I just, whatever. I thought just that memory just came up, but it happens every time now. It's just,
Wow.
boom, where am I going to go? And there I am in some random moment from my life. And, um, and it's just incredible. It's incredible.
Wow.
There's so many things we forget.
Yeah, truly.
And I'm talking about random as in I walked up the stairs from the subway. I'm just like walking up the stairs and but it was something that happened. Like I remember that day where like I walked into the Starbucks or something when I was
Yeah.
21 and it was something that happened. It wasn't just any scene of someone walking up the stairs. Like I was there.
Yeah.
Uh, and I've been really curious about that and just how the mind and yeah, why
Hmm.
those moments, why that happens, and just how our like whole experience of life can kind of come back in these ways and
Yeah.
instilled in this way. And it's like we're holding the past and the present and
Hmm.
our dreams for the future in this moment of being connected and being and just improvising and letting
Yeah.
things come through us as in a creative way. So that's
Yeah.
been really interested in that and curious about that. I just
Oh, I love
actually
that.
wrote about it on Instagram.
Oh, perfect. I'm gonna go find that.
Yeah, I didn't get any responses except for one friend, a childhood friend who's a painter.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her in years, but she wrote that she experiences the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
She's been really
Well,
curious about
I've
it.
definitely had some of those. I have kind of a recurring childhood one that's just shown up a bunch this summer, and I'm like, that one, huh? Like that just keeps coming back around. And I think they're so interesting. Also, I really love that we can evoke that when we're making sound in other people. I find that part when listeners tell me afterwards, I was thinking, oh, I just had this thing where I saw my dad and we were like talking about through this piece. And I'm like, I love that. There's that, like, I
Yeah,
love hearing those moments from people, and you never know what it's going to be for them. That's like, I can't prescribe something onto them, but I think when
yeah,
we're in that space, you just maybe you just help open some doors and you go, oh, I just really want to know what you thought about during, like, what happened for you, where did you go, what did you feel during those times. And i I think that's when we think about our sound making as a healing practice, I think that that's very much a part of that.
yes, yes, and with especially in the sound baths when I began doing it, I would just want to hear what people experienced and so many
Yeah.
visions. I felt like I was here. I saw myself here. And it's incredible. Just the visualizations are
Yeah.
amazing. And I really always hope that people go on a journey when
Yeah.
they're experiencing. But I think specifically with this, I've been curious about the extremely random,
Yeah.
insignificant. It's not, yeah, I wonder why, just passing by,
Yep.
this thing, like, why, yeah. Uh,
Exactly.
it, it's just been really, yeah, I think it's been feeling, like I said before, like this, like a whole,
Hmm.
like everything I've gathered
Yeah.
is kind of in there and trickles and
Yep.
isn't lost.
Isn't lost.
And yeah, because I'm big on journaling, and
Mm-hmm.
I just I have journals for my kids too, just kind of writing things that happened in their lives, and I think it's when we're in that creative state, and especially performance, and for me, especially improvising, it's just, yeah, we just can go deep into that imagination and memory, and it all floods back, and we're just, yeah, it's fast.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Well, Odeya, as much as I could talk to you all day about these things, I'm going to ask you to share with our listeners where they can find you if they wanted to interact with you online or maybe find out more about sound baths that you do, things like that. If you would share kind of where you want people to find you online, that would be great.
Well, I have a website, odeyanini.com, and there's also voicebath.com. That's more for my teaching and the voice baths. And
Would
my
you spell your
Instagram
name for them so they
is
know how to
yes,
yeah.
Odeyanini, Odeya
There we go.
Nini. And on my Instagram, I definitely post about things that are happening and share a lot of thoughts. I recently completed this 53 long minute voice bath film
Wow.
with some collaborators. So I'm really excited about that. It's a very meditative film with just beautiful images of nature, and this
Yeah.
animation on top, and I'm singing my voice bath for 53 minutes. So that will be
Wow.
up for viewing. It's part of an exhibition, but it'll be up online for anyone to view September 9th, I believe. So
Fabulous.
I'll be posting about that. And I've also been working on a voice lesson course. So
Great.
yeah, so I've filmed 14 lessons so
Oh my
far.
gosh, that's you're like cooking.
I'm getting to 30, and so
Yeah.
I'm really, it's been a big project to create this just platform where people can access these lessons and this
Hmm.
guidance. Yeah,
Will they be able to find that on your website too?
that it's not completed yet. I'm still working on it, but something to look out for if people are interested in this kind
Yeah.
of work.
Yeah.
Of course, I teach privately as well, but this will be out there for
Yeah.
to practice on their own and come back to, and they're like lessons. I talk a
Yeah.
bit about philosophy in this work, and all these different avenues and channels to, yeah, kind of my practice.
Amazing. Amazing. Odeya, thank you so much for being our master class today, being our master scholar and just a general guide in our sound healing lives and music making lives. So thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for asking me to be here. Thank you.